Hello! If you're familiar with video games as a concept in any way, shape or form, then you should also be aware of just how long it takes to make one. Grand Theft Auto 5, for example, took 1,000 people 5 years to make. So yeah, a long time and a lot of money. This YouTuber, however, decided to break the cycle. Long gone are the days of games taking years and millions of dollars to produce. Now they can be made in just 24 hours. Today we will be talking about 3 different games made by Weirdo Speed, and with each one, the amount of time spent on them increases. The first game took 24 hours to make, the second one, a week, and the third one took only 1 month. But we'll get into all that later, so strap yourself in, grab some popcorn or something, because we're starting off with the 24-hour game, The Last Shift. You spawn inside an office with a simple layout, with pieces of scrunched up paper littered everywhere but inside the bin. Now, per usual with a lot of FNAF games, you have a door each side of the room. You might notice that there's a Fredbear poster next to the left door and a Spring Bonnie poster next to the right door. These are important tools that will help us later, kinda. Now, I'll be honest, I went into this game not expecting much, as, 24 hours. But not only does it have a functional camera system with 5 cameras, but also a fully voice-acted phone call. Some full FNAF Fan games don't even get that. And the 2 main animatronics, Spring Bonnie and Fredbear, actually look really good. Anyways, the night starts off with Phone Guy. I'm gonna let it play for a second.
Didn't notice the security system was still active. Not even one camera, Murray. Oh my god. Even though I would love to leave you there, the location is not safe. We didn't close because we became bored with the kids, Murray.
Yeah, Murray, get a grip. Phone Guy goes on to explain the importance of monitoring the cameras as Spring Bonnie and Fredbear are making their way over. Starting from the show stage, they'll obviously work their way through the building before showing up in either the east or the west hallway. Fredbear comes from the west and Spring Bonnie comes from the east. Just like the posters, see, I told you they were important. Now, once again, Phone Guy states how important it is to monitor specifically these 2 hallway cameras, as if they show up in them, it means they're 1 step away from entering your office. So, if they leave from that camera, then you gotta shut it quickly. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a fairly simple gameplay loop. It's, I think this is a great, ground level of a Five Nights at Freddy's game. It's got all of the essentials, camera, moving animatronics, doors, I'm still so impressed that there's a phone call in this, and the fact that the models look as good as they do for the amount of time, spent on them. Also, this game only took me 5 minutes to beat, so I'm sure you can guess why I decided to cover the rest of these games. Next up is the FNAF Fan game that took 1 week to make, Abandoned Fazbear Diner, which is a remake of a remake that's a remake of a game. Apparently. This whole game is focused around Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica, with each character getting their own little cool minigame. And first up on the roster is Freddy Fazbear himself. Thankfully, it's not the toy variant. Nobody would like that. Sorry, I got a comment on my last video that said, oh yay, no Toy Freddy hate this video. Yeah, well guess what? I'm putting this section in here just because of you. Everyone comment I hate Toy Freddy, and if you see someone else commenting something positive about Toy Freddy, then reply to them saying that you hate Toy Freddy because nobody loves that sad sack of shit. Anyways, onto the much more lovable and agreeable Freddy Fazbear Original. When you hover over each character, it tells you exactly what you need to do to fend off against them. When it comes to this lovely chap who is just unfortunate enough to have Toy Freddy as a relative, basically when Freddy shows up at your door, in order to counter him, you have to do 30 jumping jacks in rapid succession or else he kills you. Fine, I guess I'll do my job and actually tell you. Well, I will tell you in a moment. First, I should probably talk about the actual office. There's an order to these things. You gotta be patient when you want these things in life. Once you spawn in the office, you have 3 magical posters on your left that will also be a crucial I'm just lying. In the dead center is a door with a light switch next to it. This is the real special tool that will help us later, so pay attention. Freddy will slowly start to wander from the show stage. He walks all this way just to stare at a cardboard box. Okay, maybe Toy Freddy is rubbing off on him a little bit. He will stumble around the restaurant like an absolute buffoon, wandering into the back room to hang out with, I don't know, maybe that's that one Scrap Chica teaser image that was just never explained from way back in the day. Regardless, he just loves staring off into space. After finally coming to his senses, Freddy actually finds his way into our office. Who's a good boy? Basically, the gist is that if Freddy appears in your office with normal eyes, then you must open the camera and click on the Stage Call button on Cam C1. See, I purposefully left out that information for a grand dramatic reveal. Hopefully it was good. Basically, this loop will repeat for the rest of the night. Freddy leaves the stage, wanders around like an idiot, then appears in your office. However, there is a chance that once he appears in your room, he might have blacked out eyes. See, this is where the light switch I mentioned earlier comes into play. Yippee! Basically, just turn the light switch off. He's scared of the dark, I guess. He appears roughly once per hour, and once you reach 6 AM, you're greeted with this cute little "you done it" screen with Freddy giving us a thumbs up. Oh, he's so proud of us. Moving on to the next section is Bonnie the Blue Rabbit. Okay, I know everyone always says, Bonnie's blue, but I will not stand for that. That rabbit is purple. He's purple. And no amount of blue rabbit propaganda will convince me otherwise. That is purple. He's purple. Tonight we are in the same office as before, except this time apparently we have no power. And no, you can't flick the light switch on, I already tried. However, you might notice the generator charge percentage on the monitor to our right. Basically, you need to charge the generator up to 100% if that wasn't obvious. However, Bonnie the Purple Rabbit seems to take issue with this. He will move in 3 stages. During his first stage, he will be peeking around the door. Next, he'll move into the room and stand in what might be one of the most awkward positions I have ever seen. And finally, he will move right up to the desk and bend over. During this final phase, you must hold your flashlight on him to send him packing. However, as you may notice, doing so drains a whole heap of your accumulated charge. As much as I hate to admit this, it kind of reminds me of the generator minigame in Fun Times at Homer's with Yupu. Can't believe that's one of my most popular videos. Bonnie in this game is fairly relentless, but again, it's very simple. Honestly, as long as I kept the charge going, I could just spam the flashlight and it wouldn't really deplete much. My one criticism for this night, as someone who knows next to nothing about game development, so that means you can obviously trust my opinion, but I feel like if instead of holding control for flashlight, you had to maybe hold left click on Bonnie instead, it would mean you'd have to choose between winding the generator and shining the light, making the sound cues that much more important. But again, this game was made in a week as more of like a proof of concept, and it's still ridiculously impressive for the amount of time and what it is. Once your charge reaches 100, you're greeted with another "you did it" screen. This time it's all the more satisfying since it doesn't have Toy Freddy's bitch-ass cousin on it. On to our third and final minigame is Chica. As you might have guessed, we are back in the office once more, this time with the lights on. Always good to see. And as you also might have guessed, this time Chica is the one to roam off stage and go hang out with Freddy's cardboard box. Adultery! However, as you may have guessed, just like Freddy, Chica takes her sweet f***ing time to get into your office. So I improvised and started playing a little tune. I did this literally the entire night. Anyways, once Chica shows up in your office, you have a limited time frame to drop literally everything and search for a goddamn cupcake, which will appear randomly on one of the cameras. I say limited time frame, but it's pretty lenient still with how much time you have, so I'll give it that. This will repeat a few more times, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Overall, fairly solid, especially for a week. I wanted to try and find the other versions of this game made by other people, but I couldn't find them, so oops. So far, we've seen what this guy can do with 24 hours and also with a week. So I think it'll be quite interesting to see what can be done in a month compared to the other smaller time frame. Last but certainly not least is The Diner Reopened, which is another remake. This one was made in a month, and boy does it show. Immediately once you load in, you're greeted with quite a cool looking office with a door and a window. The window kind of looks like a ticket booth. Maybe that's just me being crazy, but that's cool. There are also some lockers to the far left, which of course you can climb in and out of, but we'll get back to that in a moment. First up, let's talk about the phone call. Yay, another phone call, woo! Phone Guy opens, stating that it's great to finally have someone on the night shift again, and that ever since the police investigation, people have been avoiding the place, which is just outrageous. I mean, what? Just because a couple of kids went missing? Phone Guy goes on to talk about how, aside from the generic duties of the job, here at Fredbear's we have a few extra tasks. Once the clock strikes midnight, the beloved mascots will start to move around. But don't you worry, silly, this is just a part of their programming. They aren't possessed or anything. Oh, that'd be ridiculous. But apparently there's a small minor glitch where they may mistake you for an endoskeleton after hours and stuff you in a suit. Which, by the way, I love the inclusion of. I feel like that concept doesn't really get mentioned much in FNAF anymore. Nowadays, I feel like they don't really try and cover it up. It's kind of just like, oh, you know, rather get you and kill you. It's cool that there's at least them trying to justify it and not that they're possessed. Anyways, turns out there's a quick fix for this little glitch. If anyone appears outside your office, simply hide in your locker and wait until you hear them leave. Also, there's a prototype in the backstage that's apparently a test unit for a new location that's there charging overnight, because apparently the other location doesn't have a wall outlet. He says that if it starts moving that we should reset it. However, we shouldn't do it too often or we might trip the generator, which we obviously don't want. As soon as the phone call ends, the clock ticks over to 12, signaling the start of the night. I suppose now we should talk about the active threats, huh? There are 6 of them, by the way. Let's start off with Spring Bonnie. They will leave the show stage and yada yada, you get the gist, they make their way to your office. You'll hear footsteps coming from the left, meaning Spring Bonnie is about to appear at your door. Doesn't mean they're an active threat yet, but it means they will shortly become one. When they appear at your door, quickly hide in the locker. If you stay in their line of sight for too long, then your exposure meter will go down. Not quite sure what the consequence of letting this run out is, but I assume it's death. Fredbear does the same thing as Spring Bonnie, but instead of appearing at the door, he will appear at the window. And unlike Spring Bonnie, Fredbear does not have a method of warning you before he shows up. He'll laugh when he appears, and that's basically your only warning to hide, making Fredbear a much bigger threat to your exposure meter dipping. Honestly, these two aren't that difficult to deal with, you just have to stay vigilant and hide as soon as possible. Next up is Bunny. Righto. Bunny chills in the backstage area with Freddy. She will stay there What? Bunny will randomly move to a room with a vent opening, which will sound the alarm because of course. Do you think the workers at Fredbear's panic when they hear that alarm? They're like, oh, it could just be Bunny, but it could also be nuclear fallout. Guess we'll never know. Anyways, when you hear the alarm sound, you must flick through the cameras until you find her. She'll usually be quite hidden away because she's missing the lower half of her body, so she just crawls. So, it's not like she's standing and, in the middle of the room. Once you spot her, seal the vent to the room she's in and it'll reset her. Doesn't always happen instantly though, so I prefer to wait until she leaves before unsealing the vent. Moving on to Bunny's backstage pal is Freddy Fazbear. He will stay situated in the backstage room, but will start to move if you leave the monitor down too long. Basically, just stare at him like Foxy in FNAF 1. Along with that, on the backstage camera, you have a button that will reset the system. If you see Freddy moving, then use that to reset him. However, you must only do this when he's on his last stage. If you do it before then, or fail to do it at all, then he will trip your power. Freddy and Bunny were the only 2 characters I ever actually had problems with. Freddy was impossible at first because I had no idea what his final stage was. I knew I had to zap him while he was in his final phase because of the super helpful tip screen that shows you how the characters work. I really wish more fan games did this. But I didn't know what his final stage actually looked like. I died to Freddy like 3 times simply because I didn't know if this was his final stage, or if this was his final stage, or if this was his final stage. Spoiler alert, this was his final stage. If you don't zap him in time, like I said earlier, then he will trip the power anyway, so kinda just had to take the risk in case that was his final stage, and I would have died either way if that was the case. Basically though, towards the end, I just kept my camera focused on him the whole time and he wouldn't really progress past stage 2. Bunny also proved to be a difficult one to deal with sometimes, but mostly due to outside factors. If Spring Bonnie or Fredbear showed up at the same time as Bunny's alarm sounds, then it's very unlikely that you'll be able to find her in time unless you get a first try on the first camera you open. And with that, we have beaten the normal mode of the diner reopened. Fear not though, as there's still hard mode, as well as 2 brand new characters exclusive to this game mode. But first, I want to quickly give my thoughts on this game so far, because it's really good. If you told me that this game was made in only a month, I simply wouldn't believe you. Obviously, there's the fact that it's only 1 night, well, 2 if you include hard mode. But, okay, the other 2 games we covered today, while ridiculously impressive for the amount of time spent on them, they were kind of easy. Like, they functioned quite well, honestly, but it was the fact that I beat them really easy. This game, however, actually presents a challenge. And the animations, the models, well, they all looked really good in the other ones too. I don't know, this one's just the extra mile. I think it shows off what can happen when you have more time dedicated to a project. Honestly, I think my favorite part about this game might honestly be the cameras. The way that they actually look like old security cameras instead of just overlaying some static at 50% opacity, and the way they slowly load in when you select a camera along with the sound effect is just really cool. Something else I like is that the light is flashing constantly outside the window and door, completely removing the need to toggle the light like you do in most games. It's small things like this that you come to really appreciate. However, something I do not appreciate is the fact that every time the light turns on, it makes a buzzing noise, which is all you'll hear throughout the night. Problem is you can still hear it when you pull up the cameras, so it's just a constantly bzz, 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 bzz. But honestly, if that's my only grievance with a FNAF fan game that was made in a month, I think that's pretty good. Now, on to hard mode. I think the best way to demonstrate just how much of a step up in difficulty this is to just recount the first 30 seconds or so of my experience. About 10 seconds in, Bunny is already running amok in the diner. Right after that, Fredbear is already at my door. And then while hiding from Fredbear, I hear Spring Bonnie's warning footsteps. Spring Bonnie shows up at my door immediately after I exit the lockers, and then right after Spring Bonnie leaves, Bunny is now somewhere else sounding the alarm again. Freddy is in his second stage already, and who? Shadow Spring Bonnie will have a random chance to appear upon exiting the cameras. To be rid of them, simply flick the cameras back up and they will leave. As soon as Shadow Spring Bonnie left, Fredbear and Spring Bonnie showed up at the same time. You can't see it physically because there was a slight delay between Fredbear and Spring Bonnie showing up, but you can hear by the sounds. And then after that, Shadow Fredbear appears on my camera. Shadow Fredbear works the same way as Shadow Spring Bonnie, but instead of hindering the lockers, he hinders the cameras, so just flick it up and down, it'll fix it. And you might also notice that during this, the alarm for Bunny is going off again. Do you see the theme? In case you couldn't tell, the theme is that Bunny is a big pain in the f***ing ass. My ass, to be specific. She was by far the biggest hindrance with this night, being that she just kept leaving the back room. I mean, yeah, that's what she's meant to do, it's like a whole mechanic, but like every 10 to 20 seconds, she would sound the alarm. I was losing my mind. I will say though, something quite convenient that ended up happening was Fredbear and Spring Bonnie basically synced themselves together, and every time they would appear at basically the same time. And believe it or not, I actually beat hard mode first try. I don't think that's ever happened to me. It was difficult, but it was more just, I got lucky. Once you beat hard mode, you're greeted with Fredbear saying, "Great job, sports." Unfortunately, he isn't giving us a thumbs up like they did in the second game, so some points lost there. Overall, I'd say these games are really good, considering, you know, what they are and what the point of them is. Please make sure to go check out Weirdo Speed's channel, although I'm sure you've heard of them by now, but, you know, still go do it. Go watch their videos. They did a video on the development of each of these games, so if you want a little behind the scenes on each one, then go do that, and go play them if you feel like it. They'll all be linked in the description below. But yeah, before I go, I just wanted to say thank you for all the support recently. It means a lot. I mean, what? I think I just hit 6,000 subscribers, which is just mental, you know, cheers. But thank you so much for watching and have a lovely day.